Good Monday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a video explaining what we're going to do today and what we're going to do tomorrow and what we're going to do pretty much the rest of the week to try and pull together this Crater Lab. This video is designed for students that were not here today in class and or students that need a little bit of review because you were in class but you missed a couple of things. First things first. This day 2 homework, which was in the packet, must be filled out. This is very important because this gets your data all in the same place. You're simply going to copy your averages over from the first 3 pages into this page, and that's going to allow you to have all your data in one place. That's super important. What we did today in class was we divided up into groups using playing cards. And each group had to make a certain graph. Each group was assigned a certain graph. Groups 1, 2, and 3 did the drop height for either the small, the medium, and the large marble. And groups 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 did drop height for the 3 different types of marbles. So let me show you how we made these graphs depending on the card you were given. Let's say you were given card 7. That means you had to graph diameter and depth versus mass from a height of 80 centimeters. And that graph is going to look like this. Drop height at 80 centimeters. What was the diameter for the small marble at 80 centimeters, and what was the depth? What was the drop height, the drop height at 80? What was the diameter and depth for the medium marble? Drop height of 80, what was the diameter and depth for the large marble? So everyone's graph, depending on the card number that they got, is going to look a little bit different. This is just made up data. This is just made up data, ladies and gentlemen. Do not copy this data. Made up data. But then we need to make a line graph. We know how to do this. We highlight everything, insert, chart. And I'm going to scan up here. I'm going to change it from a column to a line graph. And there it is. The blue line represents the diameter from 80 centimeters at the small, at the medium, and at the large. And the red line represents depth for the small at 80, for the medium at 80, and for the large at 80. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out something called correlation. Correlation is basically how tightly tied the data is to the variables. So the way that we do this is we're going to go to Customize, Series, and let's do diameter first. Diameter. That's the blue line. I'm going to scan down, and I'm going to pick Trend Line. That gives us basically an average of our data. That thin blue line gives us an average of that data. And then the last click, scan down, is Show R Squared. And so the R squared for diameter is 0.97. That's excellent. A perfect R squared is 1.0. So anything in the 9s is a very, very tight correlation. It's a very tight correlation. What that means, I'm going to try and scan down here. Okay, my computer's a little slow. In other words, it says that the diameter of the crater depends on the mass of the marble greatly. So in other words, when we go from small to medium to large, the diameter really does depend on the mass of the marble. And we know this because the R squared is very high. All right, now let's do this again. Let's do this for the depth. So here, I need Edit Chart, Customize, Series, try the depth. Scan down Trend Line, Remember that thin red line is essentially an average of the data, the red data, the depth data. Show R squared. Ooh, 0.271. And that's pretty much the opposite. The lowest you can get is 0. What that tells me is that the mass of the marble does not play a big role in the depth. It's very unrelated. It's very uncorrelated. The mass plays a big role in the diameter. It plays a small role in the depth. And so then what we did in class is each group figured this out. We went back here and put this up on the board, and we filled in this. So each group came up with a marker. Group 3 filled in their numbers. Group 5 filled in their R squared numbers. Group 7 filled in their R squared numbers. I will put a copy of this up on the website in a couple of seconds so you can watch this video and then access this. This is very important because when you see, for example, high numbers, you know that the diameter and the drop height were very, very correlated. And if you see a low number, you know that the depth and the mass were not very correlated, for example. Remember, correlated means simply how tightly the data is tied to the result. Does the variable play a role in the result? That's all we did in class. Let me explain this extra credit. If you want some extra credit, it's due when the lab is due, you may create a data table and a graph, that shows the kinetic energy. So we made up some data that talked about mass of the marble, height of the marble. But what this does is it ties mass and velocity together. The biggest reason I want you to do this, and it's extra credit, you don't have to do this, is because it's going to be very valuable for your HERE report. And your HERE report is how we're going to communicate our results. This is not easy extra credit. This is actually pretty difficult. So you don't have to do it, but it could help you tremendously. So, what are we going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow, Tuesday, pull up my Schoology page, spinning. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we're going to talk about these HERE reports. We're going to go over this lab report, we're going to go over this example, and we're going to go over the rubric. That's going to be on Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday are work days for you to write your HERE report based off of the data and the evidence we did in the lab. And this is where you will submit your HERE report. And it's due Friday, May 7th at 7:30 a.m. So it's due before school starts on Friday. So to recap, today we crunched some more numbers. I will put up a page with those crunched numbers on it. Tomorrow we're going to learn how HERE reports work. They're more advanced CERs. Wednesday, Thursday are work days. Due Friday before school starts. Again, if you have any questions, of course, shoot me an email. And I hope this was clear and easy to understand. Thank you.